I believe it's time for our meeting. It's 9:02. We are, of course, the Palm Beach Transportation Agency meeting today, Thursday, April 21st, and it's 9:02. And I'm going to ask for a roll call.
Steve Wilson.
Here.
Yvette Drucker. Andy Thompson. Angela Cruz. Shelley Petrolia.
Here.
Joelle Flores.
He's walking through the door now.
Jim Koretsky.
Here.
Ronaldo Diaz.
Here.
Joni Brinkman.
Here.
Catherine Waldron.
Here.
Melissa McKinley. Maria Marino.
Here.
Maria Sachs. Greg Weiss.
Here.
Shirley Lanier.
Here.
Fred Pinto.
Here.
Michael Napoleon.
Here.
Christy Fox. Joseph Paduzzi.
Here.
Yvette Drucker. Can you say it into the microphone? Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Monica Mayotte here for Yvette Drucker.
Andy Thompson.
Andrea Levina O'Rourke here for Andy Thompson.
Thank you. Joelle Flores. And I think I got everybody that walked in. And Chelsea Reed.
Here.
Robert Weinroth.
I am here.
We have a quorum in person, Mr. Chair.
Very good. All right. So I'm now going to ask our good friend Mayor Wilson to do the invocation and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Would you all please rise?
Let us all bow our heads, please. Oh, Heavenly Father, we are here today with bowed heads and humble hearts. Thank you always for your grace and your mercy. Realizing, Father, over and over again that through your grace and your mercy, you've been better to us than we've been to ourselves. And with that, we say thank you. Thank you, Father, for being with us during the good times as well as the bad. Help us to offer the spirit of love to those who you put in our path from day to day. Father, we pray today for those who like the faith and for those who don't know the faith in your word. Draw them by the gentle power and love of your Holy Spirit. Father, if we had 1,000 tongues, we couldn't thank you enough. Thank you for giving us the courage and hope in times like these. And finally, Father, we say to you, bless the chairperson of this meeting. You know his heart. And all of us whom you have allowed to be assembled here today, realizing that we're no strangers to each other, just perhaps friends who we have not yet met. We give you all the praises and the glory. Amen.
Thank you, Mayor Wilson, and thank you for those kind words and wishes. Well, we are a little bit different today, not just that we all got mixed up as far as where we're sitting, but we have a few new members here today. I see Vice Mayor Cruz has not joined us yet today, but I do see that Mayor Koretsky has joined us, and it's nice to have you. And again, congratulations on your elevation to mayor. I see we have Commissioner Diaz here today. Congratulations on your appointment to our illustrious body. And I see Commissioner Fox has come in and is joining us now. Welcome. All right. Let's see. Do we have any general public remarks?
I will go back one item for modifications to the agenda, Mr. Chair. I
Okay.
do have Shirley Lanier that is asking to participate remotely, and she is on the line. She's under the weather, so she didn't want to join us in person.
Well, we appreciate her taking that precaution. Unless anybody has any objection, we will find her in order to participate. Seeing no objection, she is now part of our meeting. Okay, very good. Do we have any other modifications to the agenda?
That was the only modification.
All right, let me have a motion to approve the agenda. I have a motion. I have a second. All in favor? All opposed? It's approved unanimously. Now we'll go back to general public comments. Margie, you have any?
No, Mr. Chair.
Okay, very good. Comments from the chair. We are going to have a expedited meeting today. If you looked at the agenda, we just have one action item, it's consent. So we'll be able to blow through this real quickly. And as we've promised, we will have everybody out here by 11 o'clock today. I really have nothing else on my agenda other than I had a very interesting conversation with Steve Ross, who, if you don't recognize the name, is related. Having a conversation about the potential of a tunnel from on Okeechobee Boulevard, starting at the CSX tracks and going to the FEC tracks, with the potential of creating a green space in the middle of that area there and stopping the current bottleneck that is created as people are getting off 95 and trying to go to the island. It's certainly in the very preliminary stages of conversation, but he embraces the idea. I also had a conversation with Mayor James. He thinks that it would be a great opportunity to look at this. I have asked Ms. Nielsen to see if we can get some money from our friends at the federal government or the state to do an engineering study, a feasibility study, and perhaps you can give us an update on that, and also your interim executive director's report.
Sure. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our alternates that are here and also our new members. We're excited to have you here. In regards to the downtown potential tunnel or intermobility kind of coordination between all the various partners, there was a raise grant application deadline that happened last week, but we are looking into the possibility and for the next round, and also plan to gather all of the various partners and plans and players here in downtown, because there's a lot going on, to coordinate the different plans and try to align everyone facing in the same direction. So between the developers, between Tri-Rail, Palm-Tran, FDOT, Brightline, the city, the county, and UF and all the various players and things that are happening. That's something that we're planning, and that we'll be back with more information soon. So we look forward to looking at how do we coordinate and find solutions for people not only moving around in downtown, but also in and out of downtown. So with that, I'll jump into the interim executive director's report. Since we last met, we had a peer exchange on March 18th, where several of us traveled down to Miami-Dade Transportation Planning Organization and in Miami to learn from them. Part of this peer exchange stemmed from the fact that our February board meeting was at the same time as their mobile workshops for the Safe Street Summit. So they so graciously offered to host us and to come down there and visit them and learn about their enhanced transit plans, their SMART plan, funding mechanisms, their public-private partnerships. And TPA staff has prepared the handout that's on the dais with more information of who we heard from, some of the takeaways that we got from there. One of my biggest takeaways was how much coordination and collaboration the MPO has with the county, with the cities, and with all the different players, and how well they work together. So one of the things we learned was that Miami-Dade TPO staff and also Broward MPO have a weekly call with FDOT, and that's something that we've started now to have. And so John Crane's in the room here, but we have a scheduled weekly just touch base to coordinate on different efforts and things that are going on to improve that coordination. Number two, I want to congratulate the city of Belglade for adopting a Vision Zero resolution to commit to safety and do everything they can to promote safety and raise awareness about Vision Zero. That happened on March 23rd, so we're really excited about that. And then also on March 31st, some of you joined us. Thank you for a mobility and economic development panel where we had local experts talking about from both the public and private sectors on trends that are happening here in Palm Beach County regarding mobility, regarding economic development, and how to move forward together on that. Number four, this is really exciting news, especially for Commissioner McKinley and for Mayor Wilson and really all of us here is our TPA priority project, State Road 80 lighting project. On April 5th, the Board of County Commissioners approved a memorandum of agreement with the Department of Transportation to support the construction of this project and maintain the project. So this is a huge milestone for us. And this project actually received funding in the TPA prioritized funding for this in the last transportation improvement program last July, but we've been talking about it for years and years trying to make this happen. So it's finally moving forward. On top of that, the TPA prioritized about $14 million for this project, but of surface transportation funds. But on top of that, in this past year, an additional $10 million became available for COVID stimulus funding, which the TPA and FDOT put onto this project to help make it happen as soon as possible. So it's going to install over 1,000 lights along 18 miles of State Road 80 to improve safety and visibility. And the project design is already underway, and the construction is going to start next year, and then with phase 1, and then in phase 2 in 2026. And this is a true collaborative effort between the TPA, FDOT, the county, and FPNL to make this happen. So thank you, all of you. This is a really, really exciting project, and so happy that the county was able to approve that agreement to make it happen as well.
I'm going to interrupt you
Yes.
just for a second. For those of you who are new at the table, this has been a heavy lift. Mayor Wilson has really been doggedly pushing this along. FDOT was quite resistant, has done studies and kept coming back and said, you really don't need lights on that road. You know, it's not really a problem, but a lot of people have had accidents out there, especially with the heavy vehicles that are running along that road because of the agriculture out there. And to have this come to fruition, and it took, again, heavy lift by all the parties. The county came in to pick up the O&M on this because there's going to be ongoing expenses, and everybody really brought this to the finish line. And I'm happy that I'm going to probably see this at least started before I term out. Unfortunately, Commissioner McKinley will probably be over the horizon when they start. Oh, okay, all right, we'll invite you back for that. But anyway, this really is a testament to cooperation and just not taking no for an answer, Mayor Wilson. And thank you very much for pushing on this. You can continue.
Thank you. Just tagging onto this, we also have a new FDOT secretary. Governor DeSantis appointed Jared Perdue as the new secretary on April 7th. And he's been with FDOT for 18 years. Most recently was served as the District 5 secretary. I wanted to highlight and encourage all of you to encourage your municipalities and your schools to join schools and communities across the country in celebrating National Bike and Roll to School Day on May 4th or that week. We have here the website walkbiketoschool.org, where you can see everybody who's participating. You can register events, you can find resources to plan an event. So this is an event to encourage kids to walk and roll, whether that's I don't know, rollerblade or however they're taking active transportation to get to school, but wanted to highlight that. And we're also hosting, we're still working on our Okeechobee Boulevard and State Road 7 multimodal corridor study, and we're hosting a workshop here at the TPA on Tuesday, May 10th from 2 to 4. There's a little flyer on the dais for that. So we encourage all of you to join us, to come learn about the project, about the alternatives we're evaluating and recommending, and on that day, and help us spread the word. And finally, we are also hosting a virtual Vision Zero workshop on May 13th at 2 p.m. With Leah Shahum from the National Vision Zero Network. So we encourage you, if you're able to join, or your staff to join us to learn about that. What's exciting is that not only are we encouraging our local municipalities to become Vision Zero cities, to make the commitment and work on Vision Zero action plans, but we're expecting to have an announcement in May for additional funding to help support local municipalities that are making this commitment to help them with Vision Zero action plan. So that's really exciting because that it has been a challenge. One of the things is, okay, committing to Vision Zero, but then actually taking steps to make it happen and requires staff time, requires someone to put together a plan, and having that assistance for consultant help to do that is really great. So that's my report. And if there's any
Very good.
comments or questions, please let me know.
All right, and just for our new members here, if you want to be recognized, please put your name up like this so that we can recognize you. And Mayor Koretsky, you're the first one at bat.
Just a couple comments. Number one, I just wanted to share the sense that I have here today, one of real celebration that's founded not on the recent election I was in, but what's happened in this board since I've been gone and returning. I've always admired and enjoyed very much being on this board because of the collaborations. When you really think about it, the diversity that we have in the county, and yet we collaborate on transportation matters with, again, diversity of what kind of transportation systems we have. It's just incredible if we reflect upon that. So, but I come back also, and I think it's rather fitting that the mayor did both his Vision Zero proclamation, and we made progress on the lighting project because you couldn't have Vision Zero without the lighting project. So the fact that it came together, that's incredible. And I certainly have to acknowledge that he's been passionate about that. I know it's been at least a decade. And so relentless and passion. I feel like to some degree, with a much shorter period of time, I've been passionate on the Vision Zero on high-speed rail. And I'm really thrilled that as much progress that has been made on that, it seems like, and in fact, I learned about it in the last day or two. So I'm really thrilled about that. I want to say it on the record because, you know, we in Jupiter can't achieve Vision Zero, you know, without proper safety actions before Brightline comes to Jupiter. And I'm thrilled that there's things in the works. So it's really a testimony to efforts on our staff here and Brightline listening to the public. And I want to just get that on the record and say thank you.
Mayor, we're happy to have you back. Vice Mayor Weiss.
Thank you. Two things. One is maybe reconsideration the time you're going to be doing these public workshops so that people that are working might be able to attend. Because I think especially at Okeechobee, that's most of the issue there has to do with people that are commuting from work, to and from work. And then the other, a couple months ago, I had asked about looking into signalization technologies and just wanted to see if I can get an update on that.
Ms. Nielsen, you have anything to report?
Thank you for the comment on the workshop. We did do a workshop virtual previously for the study, and I believe on off hours as well. So we're trying to stagger it at different times, but we will try to promote that and also participate. Try to spread the word for online participation as much as we can as well. In terms of, can you refresh my memory on the traffic signalization requests?
I had asked that, you know, we get updated or informed about new traffic signalizations and potential implementations on how that might be able to help in the county.
Okay. I will look into that. And I know that the county engineering handles the traffic signalizations, and they are looking into new technology. So we can have an update at the next meeting, a presentation on that, if that would be okay.
I think that would be great.
Okay.
And maybe even invite maybe look into what other areas are doing. I fortunately have had an opportunity to travel in the last few months and seeing what other communities are doing. So there's apparently some pretty good technologies out there that are more responsive to the needs of all modes of transportation.
Was there anything specific down in Nashville that you saw that was? of
No,
interest?
well, actually, I was just in California earlier this week and watching their traffic signals in Southern California operate. and much more efficient.
All right, so Ms. Nielsen, you'll do something on that. Very good. Is that all, Vice Mayor?
Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Diaz.
Yeah, thank you. First, I just want to point out I'm excited to be here. Transportation is something I'm really, keen on focusing on, especially for Lake Worth. A lot of opportunity in how Lake Worth is designed and laid out. And, I myself am someone who uses the public transportation that we often talk about. So I have a quick question regarding the State Road 80 lighting project, and I'm just curious if if dark sky designation or qualifications are going to be considered for that sort of project.
You want to address that a little bit?
I'm not familiar with, I know that the feasibility and more details are being considered right now, but I don't know off the top of my head about the dark sky consideration, but we can ask, I don't know I know John's here from FDOT if he knows more about that, or if not, we can look into it and get back to you.
You want to come on up and give us the benefit of FDOT's? We'll make your trip here today worthwhile. And identify
good
yourself
morning.
for the record, please.
John Crane, I'm the District 4 Planning Environmental Administrator. I think dark sky, you're talking from an environmental perspective. Yeah, so we will be permitting, the project is being permitted through Florida Fish and Wildlife. And we have an environmental unit that will be coordinating in terms of the type of lighting that will be used to make sure that it is environmentally sensitive to the wildlife that's out there.
Okay. Mayor Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Since we're talking about State Road 80 lighting, I just want to go on the record and say to all of you, former Chair Pinto and Marino, and current Chair, and to all the board members, the name McKinley and Wilson always continue to come up when we talk about the lighting. But I share with my colleagues and the folks in the Glaze community, there's no way humanly possible this would have happened without this board approval. Not once did we ever bring it up that anybody on this board, and I've been around a long time, you guys know, I will call Chair Robert, we will sit next to each other. Not once did anybody from this board say no to the project. So you may say McKinley and Wilson are passionate about it, but you guys are passionate about it as well. Because if you weren't, trust me, you would have been fighting us on it. And I can go on the record and say, my heart go out to all of you. It just tells me that in Palm Beach County, we do work together. We have differences on how we get to the path of glory. But at the end of the day, we're all in this together. And the State Road 80 lighting is going to benefit everybody in Palm Beach County. Thank you, and God bless you all for that project.
Mayor Wilson, we're very happy. And like Commissioner McKinley, I hope to be there with you to cut that ribbon or turn on the light when the day comes that they're going to light that road. All right. And I don't see any other cards up. And if this is the last opportunity for free form conversation, Commissioner McKinley, you.
Yeah, while I'm giving, Mayor Wilson has said everything that needs to be said on the State Road 80 lighting. I really want to give a shout out. I push back on FDOT a lot. And they have been unbelievably responsive. The latest notice to come out of FDOT out of our region was the repaving from the Hendry County line down to the intersection there in South Bay where it connects with State Road 80, where US 27 and State Road 80 connect. I had to drive out to Clewiston last week, and that section of road is bad. I can only imagine trying to drive some of those big cane trucks or drive on that road in wet weather. And they conducted a safety study on that corridor of US 27. They're also doing improvements in Pahokee around Market Street. And that was the result of a safety study request. And so everything that, at least that I have asked them to take a look at, they have, and they're responding. And I just want to say thank you to anybody who might be here from FDOT. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner. And we certainly thank FDOT for being a partner at the table.
Mr. Chair?
Mayor?
Yeah, thank you. I would be remiss not to acknowledge our interim director, Ms. Valerie Nielsen. She came out to the Glaze couple of weeks ago, spent the entire day talking with the residents of South Bay, Pahokee, and Belglade. And I would tell you, those elected officials really appreciated that. I mean, the entire day, making sure she addressed the issues in the Glades community, not just the lighting, but the issues at hand. So thank you. I want to go on record to say that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Wilson. All right, I think we are done with this portion of our agenda. It's time to go to consent. It's a full consent agenda with 7 items. Does anybody want to remove an item of consent? If not, I'm
motion to
looking
approve.
for a motion. Had a motion. Was that Mayor Flores with the motion? I have a second by Commissioner Marino. All in favor, all opposed? Show the consent has been approved. That's our only action item for the day. You're excused if you have other places to be, but we have a lot to discuss. So we're going to move right on to an information item. And I see we have Brightline here today. So come on up, Ally. And for the record, please identify yourselves. Yeah, push the button and get your little red light on. There you go. You're on.
Perfect. Good morning. My name is Ally Soul. I'm Vice President of Community Relations for Brightline. It's been a few months since we have updated this board, but I'm happy to be here and to see so many faces. It's good to be back together. There's been a lot of talk about projects getting done with collaboration, and I would be remiss if I didn't start with also acknowledging the TPA and everybody in this room for working with Brightline since its inception to get this project to where we are. There's been a lot. We've done a lot of construction. We still have a lot in front of us, and each of you in this room has helped us collaborate, educate residents on safety, and also work with us on key safety initiatives. And for that, we are very grateful. So I'm going to provide a quick update on our project, and then I'm happy to answer any questions at the end. So everybody knows what Brightline is, but we are the only privately owned and operated express intercity passenger train system in America. Our vision is to connect key city pairs that are too long to drive and too short to fly. We have our Florida project, and we're also making progress on our Brightline West project, which will ultimately connect Southern California with Las Vegas and to be the nation's real first true high-speed project, going at speeds of about 180 miles an hour on a truly designated rail corridor. So for our Florida project, we were temporarily suspended due to COVID, but we reopened in November. At our reopening, we launched several new initiatives, hired about 200 new teammates, and we've continued on our progress for our additional inline stations. So we launched Brightline Plus, which I'll talk a little bit about. It's our new door-to-door mobility solution that's powered by technology and electric vehicles. We are also making progress on our 2 new inline stations in Boca Raton and Aventura, which are both scheduled to open by the end of this year. And we accelerated to the extent that we could construction on our Orlando extension. So the good news is we're about 75% complete. We've logged a significant amount of time on the construction, and substantial completion is set for the end of this year. We do expect to open Orlando in early 2023. I get a lot of questions from people in this room and outside who say, well, tell me the date, when, what month? And it's really hard for us to guess that at the moment because operating a railroad is not, you don't just flip a switch and start transporting passengers. There is a lengthy federal certification process that the Federal Railroad Administration requires, one that we will be undertaking when our Orlando construction is complete. It could be 30 days, it could be 60 days. We really won't know until we get to that point, but we're confident that it will be in early 2023. So we are, again, building smarter and more prosperous communities. There's been a lot of discussion about transit-oriented development, tying in with existing and future multimodal connections, which is what, frankly, all of our stations do. Our station in downtown Miami connects to Metro Rail, Metro Mover. Orlando International Airport is our northern terminus. It is part of the new intermodal terminal facility, which is the main component of the new south terminal of the airport complex, which will actually double the airport capacity by about 100 and something gates. And so that ITF, if you've been to the MIC at the Miami airport, the ITF is very similar to that. Our station in Aventura is to the west of the mall, on the west side of Biscayne Boulevard and the tracks. We have our Fort Lauderdale station just north of Broward Boulevard. Our Boca station is in downtown, right across from Meisner Park. So a great location for walkability. And obviously our West Palm Beach station is a few short steps from where we are today. So Brightline Plus, I mentioned, I would assume that most people might have seen a Brightline branded vehicle driving around. We launched, again, this door-to-door service because what we heard from our guests is that they loved the Brightline experience, but there was friction in how they would get to and from the station, from their starting destination and then from their final destination. And so we decided to launch our own service that would eliminate the process of going through that, right? We want to make taking Brightline as easy as picking up your keys. And I can tell you that this service is incredibly successful. We have our single ride vehicles, which are our Teslas. We have shared ride vehicles in our electric vans. We also have a shuttle service that goes directly to the Miami and Fort Lauderdale airports. We have our circuit vehicles, which go about a mile from our stations. And then in West Palm Beach, about 2 months ago, we launched our new bike share project, which ridership is very, very strong. People love that it's back. Our service has actually been so successful that we've had partners in other cities reaching out to figure out how they can partner with us to get people from Brightline to their destination. For example, we recently had a call with folks from the Minian development in Delray Beach. Delray Beach is not very close to one of the Brightline stations, but they want to partner with us on our shuttle vans directly and see how they can get their guests from our stations into downtown Delray. So we continue to see, again, a lot of interest in how we can partner to bring Brightline guests to other places that aren't specifically served exactly by a Brightline station. So phase 2, again, we are on track to Orlando, more than 75% complete. A significant amount of construction of time has been spent on the corridor. I have a short video that I'm going to play next. It's really hard to see and to understand the true scope and magnitude of this project, but it really is incredible, especially the pieces that we are constructing over the 528 and I-95 in Central Florida. So I'm going to make sure this plays.
Train travel is definitely the way we're going. And so to have something so new and innovative and fun and exciting.
A proud moment to have trains on site. The project team, we've all worked very hard in coordinating all the work and all the little nitty-gritty details.
The completion of Zone 2 is a tremendous show of progress for our work here at the airport.
It is not the largest of our zones, but it's certainly among the most complex construction anywhere in the corridor. And so we're thrilled to have it done. Zone 3 takes our corridor from the Goa Curve all the way to Cocoa, which is 35 miles. There are 21 bridges, 3 underpasses. We have completed about 7 miles of rail track in the western end of the Zone 3 corridor.
It's a double track, brand new bridge going across Crane Creek. We successfully completed the cutover and train traffic ran on the brand new bridge for the first time. So it's a huge milestone for the project. It's something that the whole team's proud of.
So at Loxahatchee, we are replacing the main drawbridge, and we'll have new structural steel, we'll have new foundations, we'll have all new mechanical equipment, all new electrical equipment, so the operation of the bridge is much more reliable.
So we've got 156 crossings total from West Palm to Cocoa. We've made good progress. Definitely cool to see the Brightline trains come through.
It's phenomenal for all of us that have been working on this project for so long, because this is really what we're working for. And to see these trains begin to arrive is just so exciting. It spurs us on through that last 30% of the construction that we have to complete.
Just a quick overview of the things that we've done. I think it's always good to remind people what exactly is our phase 2 scope of work. It's from West Palm Beach to the Greater Orlando Airport Authority to the airport. It's divided into 4 sections. Again, this total project goes through 8 counties and more than 50 cities. So there's a significant amount of collaboration and partnership that has to go through this. But from West Palm to Cocoa, we are double tracking the entire corridor as we did for phase 1. Also, as we did for phase 1, we are upgrading all crossings to meet the highest standards set by the Federal Railroad Administration and the Florida Department of Transportation. This includes sealed corridor infrastructure at the crossings where speeds exceed 79 miles an hour. Sealed corridor means either 4-quadrant gates or non-traversable median. We will also have positive train control fully implemented and compliant, vehicle presence detection at those sealed corridor crossings, and then, as you heard in the video, replacement or rehabilitation of the bridges that are over navigable waterways and other waterways. And we also are required by FRA to do a hazard analysis of the corridor, which is based on data, and then also the existing operations of the Florida East Coast Railway. So upcoming work in phase 2, for phase 2 in Palm Beach County, 88% of our crossings have been completed. We have about 3 remaining. You can see them outlined right there. Those dates may be subject to change, but obviously if they do, and when certain dates get set, we will communicate them as our PIO Katie Mitzner has been doing, because the TPA has helped us in getting that information out, as have our cities and our county partners who represent those districts. We also started our rehabilitation several days ago on the Loxahatchee Bridge. As you heard, we are doing a replacement of the structure to increase the reliability of it. We also partnered with the Jupiter Inlet District to elevate one of the spans that will add an additional 14 inches of clearance, which means that a majority of the boats will actually be able to get through the waterway while the bridge is in the down position. We did implement a text message system that has been very well received. We send text messages out every day, notifying people when the bridge will be open, because it's currently closed while it's being rehabilitated, and it's open twice a day for marine traffic. I can't speak to any group without talking about what is Brightline's #1 highest priority, which is safety. Unfortunately, we still continue to see incidents along the corridor, people making dangerous and deadly decisions by either going around the gates or stopping on the gates or trying to beat a train. Thankfully, with our partners, we are continuing to work to educate people that this is not okay behavior. It is dangerous. It can cost you your life. And so we really have a 3-prong approach to safety. The first is engineering. Last year, we implemented 2 red light cameras at 2 crossings in Miami-Dade County. In about 3 months, we had issued more than 900 warning letters. Brightline is not an authority that can issue tickets, but we worked closely with the Florida East Coast Railway Police to get these notification letters out. We do have a red light camera set up in Hallandale and in Lantana, and we have added about 600 warning citation letters to the 900. So we've issued about 1,500 in less than 6 months. And by doing so, we can identify where there's a problem and then work with local law enforcement to go out and to monitor the area. We also are working with our partners at the Florida Department of Transportation on a RAISE grant. That is a federal infrastructure project. It would cover Miami to Brevard counties. It would include delineators at the crossings. We see people turn onto the railroad. They think it's a perimeter road. Their GPS can be confusing. So these delineators would be in place to show people that this is a railroad. You are not supposed to be turning here. It would also include additional intrusion, which means fencing and landscaping, and also signage. We are working on some pilot channelization projects. I mention that because Channelization and fencing is not the answer for everything. Each area has different characteristics on ways to deter this type of behavior. In some areas, we found fencing to work, and others, it has actually caused more issues than benefit. So in Southern Palm Beach County, we identified 7 spots where we installed fencing and native plants. Because fencing combined with plants means that it makes it it's less easy for people to cut the fence, because simply when a fence is installed, that's what people do. And in these areas, we actually have not had any incidents. So we take this to be, again, a good sign of showing that by looking at the data and at certain characteristics of places, we can implement solutions that can help to decrease the amount of incidents that we're having. Law enforcement, our partners in law enforcement are extremely important to our efforts. It is against the law in Florida to go around the gates when the red light starts blinking red and the gates start going down. It is illegal to even go through the grade crossing at that time. It's illegal to stop on the tracks. And when the gates are in the down position, it is illegal to go around them. The Florida East Coast Railway Brightline corridor is also private property. So it is illegal to take a shortcut, to walk along the tracks as if they were a trail, or to bike along. I'm sure that no one in this room would be surprised by the things that we've seen, but it is through our law enforcement officials that we're actually able to target this behavior. For example, the Federal Railroad Administration came down about 2 months ago now and held a workshop that was community-based on how the community can work together to solve this issue, to help to reduce the amount of incidents that we're having. And they talked about the need for law enforcement and also the grants that are available for law enforcement. And as a result, the Sheriff's Office in Lake Worth Beach did about a 2-week program where they went out and cited people, and they issued about 240 citations in 2 weeks for people who were engaged in illegal behavior around the corridor. I talked about the grant program. We actually partnered with the city of Hollywood on a law enforcement grant. And as a result of that grant and the increased enforcement that the department was able to do around the corridor, they actually identified somebody who was on the path to commit suicide, and they were able to save that individual's life. And so it's incidents, these partnerships are essential for us. Education, we obviously partner with our 3 school districts in South Florida. We'll do that as we continue up the corridor. We partner with 211. While Brightline is not a mental health provider, we do believe that it is our responsibility to help educate people about the resources that exist in the community. It's very meaningful for us as a company. We want to make sure that people get the help and the information that they need. And then again, we live in a very diverse community, so it's important to have all of our materials available in the languages that people use, and also our signage. So we have signage along the corridor and languages that are available in English, Spanish, and Creole. And we also worked with the Broward School District to translate that information into Portuguese. That concludes my presentation. With that, I am happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. And not surprisingly, Mayor Koretsky is going to ask for your attention in a moment, but I want to really compliment Brightline on being out there. I mean, you can't stop stupid, but certainly we're the continuing education of our residents to make them cognizant of the dangers of being in a hurry.
Right.
Again, the Lake Worth accident, which the railroad released the video, it was very clear that someone was sitting there behind a car, got frustrated waiting for a freight to go by, and the moment the freight finished clearing that crossing, felt that it was time to go and didn't realize there was a Brightline coming in the other direction. So I commend you for that. Obviously, suicide by train is something that is a problem, and mental health issues are something that we have to address. I'm also very, very excited about Brightline Plus. Being someone now who's a city dweller myself, I'm looking forward to the day when the platform at Boca Raton is welcoming passengers, and I can grab one of your probably your shared rides, because I probably won't get the highest end of service, but still picked up, dropped off at the station, and then picked up the street here and taken to the office. I think that first mile, last mile, or as Mr. Goddard says, the friction that is when someone has that need to get from where they are to the fixed route, whether it's bus or whether it's train, is an important element, and I commend you for doing that. With that being said, I'm going to welcome Mr. Koretsky's remarks.
I want to start by reemphasizing my appreciation and the town's and your presentation was awesome. It expressed real compassion and empathy and understanding on the safety needs, which is, I quite frankly had never heard it that way before. I'm really grateful. And, you know, you were very careful in your choice of words. You avoided me having to ask a question for the record because when you said sealed corridor, you said active crossings. That's always been an issue, you know, for us in the town, because we feel like there should be consideration to really sealing the corridor. Now, that said, we really looked at this in advance of Brightline. It's been a strategic item for us for several years. And we have about 5 miles of FEC corridor. So there's about 10 miles of, you know, exposed border that some could say, well, sealed corridor, you're talking about 10 miles of fencing. No, we went through it. There's a lot of natural barriers. We went through it and we've defined 1 mile spread out over several areas that we really feel is what needs to be done to effectively seal the corridor. And to paint a picture and the distinction, and I could have had a photo shown, but I'll just describe it. You know, we have one of our oldest neighborhoods, Pine Gardens South, that the residents and a lot of kids have used a pathway across the Brightline FEC corridor to get to a public shopping center. If you saw the picture that I shared with, you know, with our executive director here, you would see, I mean, a beaten path. Well, you could say, well, and by the way, we don't use the word trespassers in Jupiter. We say human beings. So there's human beings that have been crossing that for decades. When it was freight trains.
Pictures up.
Is it up? Great. When it was freight trains, the freight trains were moving, quite frankly, less than the speed on Alton and A1A, so people could judge it. With high-speed rail, the speed at this location is going to be 100 miles an hour. So both as a professional engineer and a concern with public safety and an elected official, was nothing more paramount. You know, we've been passionate about wanting to do something about this, so I'm grateful that, you know, Brightline is going to address that, you know, before the end of the year here. But if you go up and down this one section as an example, there's in this about a 6-block section, there's at least a dozen or more pass-throughs. This is the one that is most prevalent because, again, there's a public shopping center across the way. But and we're going to take seriously our responsibility as a government to do enforcement, but it's a balance of enforcement and infrastructure. So we believe that the fencing needs to be extended to do it right. I'm confident in talking with Ally that we'll work through that before this is put in service. But I do think we have reasonable requests. You seem, you know, Brightline is, you know, coming across clearly that you want to work with us. About a year ago, I asked for what I thought to be a practical solution. Is I thought that if FEC could just automatically grant the right on its the edges of its corridor to put fencing in, if we were to see an experience an accident, a fatality, we could, in an area maybe we missed putting fencing in, there could be a way that you could get somebody out there in a matter of days to correct that. I think that's the right kind of planning. It's never been explained to me, boy, that is not a practical solution. So I'm going to make that ask again for the record. Why couldn't FEC just grant the right carte blanche that fencing could go in? Because then that would be a rapid, you know, solution to be done. But I'm expecting that's going to be considered. It is a practical approach, and I'm expecting that Brightline is going to work with us to help us to accomplish the 1 mile out of 10 miles that we think is paramount to protect our residents. And then we'll certainly participate in enforcing whatever and making sure that fences are not cut and whatever, and people are not climbing over fences, but it's not practical to hire police, to patrol an area that's, been used for decades for crossing. That's just my opinion and the opinion of the town council. But again, thank you so much. I'm so thrilled and joyful. I mean that. Thank you.
Ms. Sewell, do you want to respond?
Thank you so much, Chair. I'll say two things to that, Mayor. The first is, again, I can't emphasize enough how important safety is for us. These incidents have effects on everybody. They have effects on our engineers and conductors who witness them firsthand and are not able to obviously stop a train. It takes more than a mile for a train to start. And if you can imagine, these people are sitting in the locomotive witnessing all of this in front of them. It is traumatic. It's traumatic for the people who have to respond, for the people who are involved, and then obviously for the families. So for us, we want to work as closely as we can with all local governments to reduce or eliminate these incidents if we are able to. The reason that I'll touch on the trespasser comment. The reason we call individuals who are on the corridor without permission trespassers is because we don't want to insinuate that behavior is okay. You talk about the freight train in this area. Freight trains can go close to 70 miles an hour. A freight train and a passenger train, if you're in the way of either of those, your life is at risk. And so we want to make sure that when we're educating and talking to people about this behavior, if you've done it for a year, it doesn't make it okay. It just means that we have to go in and really work to educate people on why it isn't okay and why they're in danger every time they do that. So those are the 2 points that I would make.
Great, understand. And if I can just respond, number one is, if you look at this beaten path here that's been used for decades, and you look at the sign, the sign is so faded, I don't even know what it means. So I don't think the public could either. I just say that quite frankly. In any event, I just want to emphasize that. So we want to partner together, to do this right. But when something like this has existed for decades, and by the way, the freight trains can't go that fast through Jupiter because of the bridge. They have to slow down. So we're in a natural slow down and speed up. If you're northbound, you're coming in at the south end of Jupiter at 110. You have to slow down because you can't be over 60 mile an hour going over the bridge, as you know. And then you're speeding back up because it's high speed. You want to get to where you're going, and then we're in the reverse direction. Again, I submit that people that have gone through here have never experienced a freight train lumbering along at more than about 30, 40 mile an hour, which is they're used to that by vehicles crossing the road. Nobody can comprehend what it's going to look like, something approaching at 110 mile an hour. That's my opinion. But thank you very much. I'm not being argumentative. I'm just emphasizing that's the way we look at it as both as an engineer and as elected officials, that nobody is going to be able to understand the risk they're taking with something approaching at 110 mile an hour. That's why we want the fencing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Ms. Nielsen, you wanted to say something?
Thank you. I just wanted to thank Brightline for Ali for being here today and for the great partnership that we've worked on for responding so quickly to the requests and just working with all our municipalities and with us. It's been a great partnership. As an MPO, as a planning agency, we aren't able to make anyone do something on private property or even fund things on private property, but we have between phase 1 and phase 2. Phase 1 was Miami to West Palm Beach. Phase 2 is West Palm Beach to Orlando. But in our county, our board, the TPA board, has prioritized about $9.5 million worth of safety improvements of what we can fund within the public right-of-way crossings. And Ali mentioned a raised grant application that FDOT Central Office and Brightline have applied for. They'll find out in August if they get it, but for $45 million, about $13 million in our county is estimated, but additional safety improvements. And that's something that we are also supporting and trying to encourage as well. Hopefully it's successful. So I just wanted to say thank you. It's been a great collaboration between all of us and with Brightline.
Thank you. Commissioner Marino.
Thank you. I'll do a partner update with SFRTA later, but I just wanted to say to Ally that, Brightline and SFRTA are still working together to get Miami Central completed. We've had some bumps along the way, but we are looking at some corrections right now. And if all goes according to Hoyle, we should be having service later this year. So just pass along my thanks. I know it's been a heavy lift for everybody, but we do appreciate Brightline working with Tri-Rail.
We appreciate your leadership.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Vice Mayor
Thank
O'Rourke.
you.
Yes,
sorry.
thank you.
We got two vice mayors here.
It's on me now?
Yep, it's yours.
Okay. First of all, thank you. Thank you so much, Ally. We are very excited in Boca Raton. I think I can speak for most all of the community and my colleagues on City Council that we're very excited about the station coming. We see the progress every day. I think it was probably one of the easier votes we ever had because I would say we had, if not 99%, 99.9% across all interests in Boca that very much wanted this to come to our community. So we're happy about that. My question is about this I call last mile or door-to-door service. When you open up in Boca, will that be initiated from the beginning?
Yes, Vice Mayor, we are actually meeting with Mayor Singer and I think staff in a couple of weeks to have the initial conversations around what the Brightline Plus platform would look like in the city.
And when, thank you. And when you do this in other cities, does it, what's the distance that it goes? And does it go from somewhere else to Brightline? Can you actually get it to the Brightline?
So yes, I will tell you that the service will continue to evolve as we continue to upgrade and expand our technology platform and also partnerships with potential other entities. But in today's version of Brightline Plus, you can take a circuit golf cart about a mile from the station radius. You can take a Tesla and a shared van about 5 miles from our station radius. And yes, we do both pick up and we do drop off. I believe that there will come up, it has been complimentary. There will come a time when we do start to charge, for the private services and potentially for other ones. We're still working on all of that. And it will obviously, be based on user feedback and then also our ability to keep the system running and growing.
And will that be app oriented? In other words, you would order that through an app?
It is actually in our Brightline app. You're able to book it all. And that's really, the friction point that the chair and our president, Patrick Goddard, talks about is, it's difficult, you can go to Uber or Lyft and book a thing, and then you got to go to Brightline, and then you got to do it on the other end. We're trying to make it so that all in one place, you can go from, if it's your office to Brightline, then to your house and vice versa, or wherever.
And a part of your ticket in a way.
Yes,
Okay.
that's exactly right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor, and recognize our Vice Mayor from Lake Worth is here also. Nice to see you here. And I will now recognize Vice Mayor Weiss.
Thank you. First off, thank you very much for the update, Ally, and great work you all are doing. But I just following up on Mayor Koretsky's comments, maybe think about putting in that fencing prior to going into service, so you can look and try and understand, how you're going to modify this behavior, and see, if they start to cut the fence or if they're going to create other walkarounds, so that before the trains actually start running and somebody gets injured, there's an opportunity to try and address and get this behavior changed in advance.
If I may, so absolutely. And the fencing that I referenced in Jupiter is actually part of our phase 2 construction project. So it will be in before Brightline begins its service. We do have, a fencing component of our phase 2 construction from West Palm Beach to Cocoa. So there will, I hope nobody took my comments to mean there won't be any fencing. There will be fencing. Obviously, when operations start, you see other trends that exist, and that's an opportunity to continue to evaluate those and to figure out where other solutions may be applicable.
My question is, did you use ride share this morning or the bike share?
I walked.
Commissioner McKinley.
Thank you. And I want to thank Ally. A couple of months ago, we brought down right when Brightline first, I don't even think you'd opened back up.
I think it was like the day after.
We had a group of commissioners and leaders from the National Association of Counties come down, and we were able to show off Brightline. They hosted a private ride for us and a reception in the Fort Lauderdale station. So thank you for that. They were pretty impressed. So I don't have Brightline out west, but if you've got the 5 mile service, are you looking at all and trying to do like a park and ride so that we don't have to maneuver the construction and the terrible traffic in the city of West Palm, and we can park somewhere 5 miles out and take the ride into the station?
I will bring that back to the team. I don't know if that's been thought about, but I'm happy to bring that suggestion back. We do have a vice president of mobility whose sole focus is figuring out how to connect more people to the Brightline service. So I will absolutely share that with him.
Okay. And then my last question, it's not Brightline centric, but I appreciate Mayor Koretsky for bringing up the issue of that pathway. I don't know if it's US Sugar's rail line or if it's the CSX track, but out in the city of South Bay, there's a neighborhood, Mayor Wilson, it's just north on 27, north of the intersection of 27 and 80. There's a neighborhood there off to the left-hand side if you're heading north. And I remember a few years ago, the mayor and I, Mayor Wilson and I met with a group of kids that lived back in there. And that was one of the things they asked for. They had a similar path that had to cross over the rail track to get to a playground. And I'm wondering if you put together sort of an action plan on how to get a private rail line owner to put up a safety fence like that to prevent those types of crossings. That would be beneficial to those of us with other rail lines in our districts. I'd love to see how that's managed.
You're taking notes.
Yeah, I'm taking notes to look into that location, but also thinking about how the steps. I think as a planning agency, we can connect, we can raise awareness, we can look into it, but we can't make the private entities do things. So on CSX though, it's a CSX, which is where Tri-Rail runs on with Tri-Rail, that's a public, that's FDOT owned. But I'd have to check on the rail out west with Brightline, and they're FEC, so they're private, but at least it's making those connections, bringing that awareness, doing the safety study and trying to figure out the solutions.
Yeah, I would just love to see what some of our options might be. And I'll go with Mayor Wilson. We'll go take a visit out there again. It's been a little bit of time.
Love to join you as well.
Along the lines of what Commissioner McKinley said, obviously Brightline is the spine of a transportation system. Anything we can do to facilitate east-west travel, like what we're saying here, if you had a park and ride west out in, by Century Village or something like that, bringing people in, or in Boca Raton, out on Glades, out in the West Boca Raton to draw people in. Obviously, that'll raise up the amount of traffic that you're generating, which is obviously the way that you make money. And I think it also makes that more reachable to people who are looking to have an efficient way of going north and south. Commissioner Sachs, you're recognized.
Thank you very much. There I am. Thank you for your presentation. One of the best things that anyone can do is to take the Brightline to Miami and go see an American Air, or I guess the FTX arena, to see a Miami Heat game. It is extraordinary. And one of the most surprising things is the beauty of the station in Miami. It's futuristic, and it really is beautiful. Well job. Well done. Two questions. One, you said it's privately owned completely. What part of privately owned are there federal or state funds towards, or city towards this venture of the original plan was Miami, Orlando, fast, inexpensive. Now we've added, different stations, but how much how much government funds have been involved in this investment?
So the operations and the investment in the infrastructure for our Miami to Orlando segment is, privately funded. We used private activity bonds, which is a federal program designed for investment in infrastructure projects such as ours to help fund a portion of that. And we have partnered with local governments and agencies that have wished for Brightline action in their area, right? For example, we worked with the city of Boca Raton. City of Boca applied for a CRISI grant, which is a federal program for some payment for the Boca station. Brightline is putting in a significant amount of money, and the city is putting in $9 million toward the construction of their parking structure, which will be used to support their public library and then also the Brightline station. Valerie mentioned the TPA. Quiet zones have long been a desire of communities along the Florida East Coast Railway Brightline corridor. Before Brightline's investment to completely upgrade the entirety of the system, they were cost prohibitive. Brightline invested tens of millions of dollars between Miami and West Palm Beach on the corridor infrastructure, specifically at the crossings. And the TPAs in each of the 3 counties contributed the delta of those funds that would be required to bring those regions to the quiet zone status. Quiet zones are a quality of life benefit, right? So that's something that we worked closely with the local government. It's decided that it was a priority, and obviously they were able to utilize our construction resources and also realize a cost savings while we were out in the corridor doing the work to make it happen. And we're doing the same thing for phase 2 for those cities that wish, north of West Palm Beach that wish to have a quiet zone. We're also doing that with the TPA as well.
So would you say it's more like a private-public partnership between Brightline and municipalities?
There are aspects of the project that have absolutely been partnerships.
Very good.
But the spine of the system, as the mayor refers to it as, is a private investment.
Secondly, and the last question is Brightline constructing your own rails, or is Brightline using some of the FEC or other rails already placed between Miami and Orlando?
So that's a great question. So the Florida East Coast Railway owns the corridor, and Brightline owns a perpetual easement to operate passenger rail system within the corridor all the way from Miami to Jacksonville. We also have an agreement with the Florida Department of Transportation to build and construct 40 miles of new right-of-way between Cocoa and the Orlando International Airport. So essentially what we're doing is we are rehabbing and rebuilding portions of the railway. For the section north of West Palm Beach, where our trains reach faster speeds, that requires a different type of track, a different type of maintenance. Both tracks will obviously be upgraded to meet those federal requirements, and Florida East Coast Railway will utilize both tracks. I always suggest that people look at the railroad like an interstate highway. It is 2 lanes. People can pass in either directions, and it's obviously to make sure that the freight train doesn't stop and block crossings and interrupt traffic in communities where that's it can be an issue. And it also allows for the passenger service and the freight service to continue moving. We co-own a company that's called Florida Dispatch Co. That is the operation center. They dispatch all the trains, they're monitoring them. It's based in Jacksonville, and that entity is responsible for making sure of the fluid movement of both the freight and the passenger service throughout the corridor at all times.
So some of the rail that Brightline is using has already been constructed by other rail companies that are government owned. However, Brightline is that's not true.
No, ma'am.
No. So
The
you're
Florida
using-
East Coast Railway is entirely, it's a private venture. And so the rail that's been constructed within the corridor has been done so as a private company.
Very good.
As
And
Valerie
last-
mentioned, the South Florida rail corridor is owned by the Florida Department of Transportation. That's where Tri-Rail runs. That is an investment, a public corridor where like FDOT and others have made infrastructure improvements for the track and signals.
So with regard to, for example, Commissioner McKinley's talking about getting rail, not just in the north-south corridor, but also coming west, as you're doing from Cocoa Beach to Orlando International Airport, there is a possibility that there could be rail extension using some of the Brightline rail, also going to western communities. I think possibility of going out from Orlando to Tampa is in the works.
Yes.
So there could be a possibility of extending, if you know, part of Brightline's connection here in South Florida to communities in the West.
Yes, to the Orlando to a Tampa expansion. That is definitely something that the company is working with the Central Florida and the Tampa community and the Florida Department of Transportation on. As it relates to expanding Brightline to the west, the Florida East Coast Railway, it is 351 miles from Jacksonville to Miami. Unfortunately, there really are no spurs except in the case of where it veers to the Hialeah Rail Yard, which is in Miami-Dade County. So I think what we're focused on is supporting the TPA on its 561 plan that does envision the different multimodal corridors that connect east, west, and north, south. We're doing the same thing in Broward County and the same thing in Miami-Dade County. Miami-Dade County has the SMART plan, of which we are very supportive of that as well, because a more connected community is better for all of us. And so that is really what Brightline's focus is in supporting our partners in those efforts. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Fox, you're recognized.
Thank you. Mic does not turn on.
Yeah, it's on. You can't
Red
see
light
it.
on.
It's behind the microphone. Mic on the mic.
Okay. Okay, thank you. This is my first meeting. So Ally, it's really great to see you here. I live downtown. I walk by Brightline every day. It's so great to see people so active now. I think I've gotten more comments about the Bright Bikes than just about anything. Our city has been really missing having a bike share program. My question about that is, I think initially you worked closely with the DDA, people at the city to try to determine what the best locations would be for those bike routes. What I'm noticing in our city is there are a lot of areas that are in more underserved communities. Last night I was at Heart and Soul Park in our historic Northwest. I think that they could really benefit from the bike shares as well. It's very close to downtown. So I'm just curious if there's any plans or possibilities for adding like a phase 2 of bike shares that maybe we can have exposure in sort of the rest of the city that's somewhat close to downtown and also sort of in transportation desert areas that would be really beneficial.
Yeah, Commissioner, nice to see you. Appreciate your comment. I think it would be good for us to come back and brief you on that. Obviously, there's always the potential for expansion, but we would need other partners to contribute in the expansion of those efforts. You know, we've had some private entities, hotels, et cetera, reaching out to us about adding a bike share station there. So again, it's definitely an option, but requires more conversation, one that we would be happy to have because we agree. We do think that connecting people and increasing transportation options is important.
Commissioner Fox, you done? Okay. Commissioner Diaz, you're recognized.
Thank you. I wanted to first echo what Commissioner McKinley asked for, a resource kind of like on how to pursue these kinds of crossings that would be really useful. Lake Worth, we are, of course, we're a grid and many of our east-west streets, most all of them, of course, are cut in half. And the result of which a lot of those streets, or a good majority of them, have these unofficial crossings similar to Jupiter. So, a resource like that would be really helpful to help pursue those crossings because, although fence works, I definitely appreciate the use of living fences, but that would cause issues for our pedestrians, which of course we have a lot of in Lake Worth. With this instruction manual, if you will, or this resource, it would be great to also include, what technologies are available or what technologies maybe are on the horizon for pedestrian-only crossings to see what we can use and improve that situation. That's it.
Thank you. I think the technical term for those are goat paths. Mayor.
Yeah, Mr. Chair,
Oh, I'm sorry,
right one?
Mayor Petrolia.
Okay, thank you. I apologize, whoever the other mayor was. I didn't mean to jump in. First of all, thank you very much for the presentation, very knowledgeable. And I just wanted to bring up two different things. Number one, Mayor Koretsky, your comments are so spot on. I know we were kind of like at the beginning of this and cutting through a town with so much heavy pedestrian traffic right at those gates and those tracks was very concerning for Delray Beach. We were not necessarily, we were concerned and rightfully so. We've had several fatalities down our way, obviously, and remind me if I'm correct, we put in the,
Yes, ma'am.
yeah, we added our own fencing in order to be able to eliminate some of that pedestrian traffic that was used to crossing midway. Against the rules, against the law, you're not supposed to do that. It happened all the time because of, again, there's that, whatever it is that's bringing them to try to cross there, to get across it, the easier than going down to a track crossing and doing it properly. So we ended up putting fencing up, and that really has helped out the situation. And I'm glad to see that, you know, Brightline is considering this all the way down the tracks. And kind of take a little bit of exception with, you know, that you can't fix stupid. If you met some of the people that were involved in some of these fatalities, it sometimes just a judgment. You know, there's a train now racing down a track that wasn't racing as much prior to, and taking that judgment, even if you're in a car or pedestrian, it's very difficult for people to, you know, get their mind grasp around how quickly that train is now going to hit the point at which they're trying to make that crossing. So it does take that education. And we've had a little bit of a reprieve, but it's been through COVID. So I'm hoping that it doesn't rise up again. We've done what we can do in order to be able to keep those people on the crossovers where the gates go down and everybody understands, do not cross now. It's not safe. My question, I guess, is this, and that's why I'm saying, I just wanted to make sure that you understand what we're dealing with, and because we're kind of already that canary in the coal mine, how you can maybe do some things ahead of time. I thought it was a great recommendation by Vice Mayor Weiss. Get those things up now. Get people already trying to get around, you know, get to points that are crossing that are safer instead of continuing to allow it to happen. And then having a bullet train come through and having an issue. But my question is, there was a point in time where we were, and this might help out with some of the other auxiliary questions, but where there was going to be a coastal link. And I'm just going to ask that question again. Is that been scrapped, or is that something that's still coming? Because again, a coastal link could possibly be a connector within cities. Who's got the money?
Absolutely, Mayor.
Okay.
I'm sure some other
I think I
people
just
will
heard
want
the
to
answer
jump
here.
in on this. It definitely has not been scrapped. You know, it is something that we are working closely with Miami-Dade County and with Broward County. Miami-Dade and Broward County both have sales taxes to pay for infrastructure projects like those. Miami-Dade County has, it's called the Northeast Corridor. It's in their SMART plan. Broward County is going through the process right now of working with the Florida Department of Transportation on what that crossing of the new river will look like. And so I know that the Coastal Link is part of the 561 plan. You all have prioritized it, and it is something that, you know, we've had initial meetings with the TPA on. We're supportive of it. We agree with you. More connections, more, you know, the facilitation of movement is a positive thing for our region.
Especially as we move forward. Thank you very much.
Very good. Thank you, Mayor. Okay, Mayor Wilson.
Well, it was just a point of information, and I'd support my colleague to my right. He, there's a very concern with that train going at that speed and no fencing. And then I'm hearing my colleagues in front of me. I mean, Mr. Chair, how do we navigate ourselves through this? I'm sure there's probably other concerns. I'm a total supporter of Brightline, but how do we navigate these areas of concerns with fencing? Is it by a letter of support to the organization to let these folks know? Because
I don't think a letter is necessary. I think they have been responsive. I know Valerie has been working with Ally on these issues. I know that they as much as us want to make sure that people don't die on their tracks. And so I think that's the ultimate answer, that they're going to work with us to see what can be done. I think to Mayor Koretsky's point, we're going to see what can be done to give the municipalities maybe a little more authority to go ahead and put safety steps in place without going through a lot of regulation or approvals. But I'm going to defer to Ms. Nielsen on that, and maybe we'll finish off on here. We're getting close to 10:30, and I'd like to make a hard stop at 10:30 so we have time to finish up our agenda.
Sure, thank you. And Ally, I know that Brightline and FEC have done extensive studies identifying where these key, mile by mile, location by location, where are these improvements and what type of improvement is appropriate in each location as well.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Ally, isn't thing?
I was just going to say, I would like, to restate our company's commitment to safety. We have a dedicated team of safety and security officials who have more than 70 years of experience working on transportation railroads in New Jersey, around the country, working directly with the Federal Railroad Administration. They wake up every single day determining, what we can continue to do to enhance safety, work with local governments, get the message out to communities. One of my primary roles of my job is safety outreach and education. So I assure you, it is not something that the company takes lightly, and it is our greatest priority.
Very good. Again, I think this has been a good conversation. Do you want to sum it up at this point, Valerie?
Yeah, I just wanted to touch on just real quickly on a couple of things that were mentioned. The park and ride idea, I think, is a great idea. So long as Brightline continues to do those first last mile, 5 mile connections, and that could be an opportunity for a public-private partnership as well, in terms of maybe there's a mall or somewhere that allows for people to park that has surplus parking, and that's a destination for those connections. I also wanted to mention, we're so excited for the Boca Raton station that's expected to come later this year, and we're hoping to do a mobile tour of the station and check it out. I've been talking with Deputy Mayor O'Rourke about a potential complete streets mobility kind of a plan to access the station in terms of what the city can do for ped bike improvements on there. And also, I wanted to touch on the Tri-Rail Coastal Link. This has been an ongoing conversation, and it is part of our 561 plan. We do need to acquire an easement to run on private property, and also acquire funding that we don't have. As Ally mentioned, Broward and Miami-Dade counties the counties have a dedicated funding source for transit operations that can fund this. And this is part of the ongoing conversation, the TPA with the county, with our transit operators to further that conversation for our 561 plan for these corridors, on identifying the right strategy, the desires and the needs for a dedicated funding source that the county can use for those operations and maintenance of enhanced transit. So that's just a couple comments. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And Ally, thank you so much for taking the time to come on up here and join us. Obviously, it was a fertile conversation. I think everybody is very, very happy that we had this opportunity. Okay. We're going to do a partner agency update. I see our assistant administrator for the county, Todd Bonlaren. You are recognized.
Thank you, Mayor Weinroth. Just briefly wanted to give you a few updates from Palmtran. Just from a ridership perspective, I know everybody's curious about how ridership is going and how we're starting to come back from COVID and the pandemic. We saw this month of March 2022 a 9.2% increase over the same period the previous year. So we're really excited about seeing those numbers come up. That was a 13.7% increase from the previous month. Even though overall our numbers are down for Palmtran, the numbers are trending in the right direction. Obviously, with the pandemic, moving towards a recovery phase that we're in, and then also as the price of gas continues to rise at the level it is, we're seeing a lot more choice riders come into our system. You might have seen our Pride Month bus, our Proud Together bus around the community. We were excited to be in Lake Worth to be the sort of the grand marshal of their parade at the front end of it. So thank you all for that support. Our Board of County Commissioners extended our paratransit contract that we have with our 2 providers. But the one thing that we're seeing with that is that as we have a shortage in the transit operator industry, it's starting to affect the cost of what it is to do business, what we have to pay some of those riders to do that. And we're out to RFP right now on that contract. And we obviously expect that we might see some higher prices coming in terms of what it means to run the system at the level that we do today. I also wanted to share with you from the leadership of Commissioner Maria Sachs and our Board of County Commissioners, the county is going to be hosting an economic summit in June, on June the 2nd at our convention center. The issues of housing and transportation and transit will be very prominent in that. So we're excited to work with the TPA and have some of that involvement. Ms. Nielsen will be with us and working with one of our panels. So thank you to her. And finally, just wanted to end on just a collaborative note. Over the past couple of months, I wanted to just make a personal thank you to Ms. Nielsen for the outreach from the TPA staff with the county, with some of our other municipalities that she's brought together on some really important transit issues, working with West Palm on some of their mobility issues within the city, our engineering teams being in here, having open conversations. It's been a pleasure to be having those discussions with you and your staff. And thank you very much for your leadership on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Todd. Appreciate that report. FDOT, do you want to, any update? Everything's good? Okay. Commissioner Marino, you are recognized.
Well, since I'm the chair of SFRTA, I might as well give you an update. We have hired a search firm to try and find us a new executive director. And also we, as I said, we are hopefully coming to terms with Brightline to get Miami Central done. As for continuing Tri-Rail and doing the coastal link, until we get a funding source with it, we can say we want it, but until we have a dedicated funding source, it's really not going to happen because, you know, the TPA and SFRTA, you know, we are a pretty much grant run business from the federal government, and we don't have extra dollars to build stations and lay track and crossover. So until we find a dedicated funding source, I don't see that happening anytime in the near future. And it has been something that we have worked on for many years. I was working on it when I was mayor of Gardens, when worked on it with Keep James, and then finally came to the point where, you know, there just wasn't a Brightline wasn't ready to work with Tri-Rail. And then finally they did their connection now, but at the end of the day, it also has to do with dollars. So that's a long-winded way of saying until we get more dollars, Coastal Link's not going to happen. And SFRTA right now is on a search for a new executive director. We've hired a search firm, and that is the update.
Is
from
there a
SFRTA.
date certain for Mr. Abrams to depart?
Date certain, no.
Okay. Look, we all know that there's a need for a dedicated funding source. We're going to have that discussion at some point, and if it's going to be a transportation surtax, if that is the direction that we decide that it makes sense, then it'll have to go to the voters ultimately. So we'll have to have a long conversation. Thanks to our friends in the legislature, there's very little we can do to put information out there about a referendum. So we are going to need partners like Economic Council and the chambers and everybody else out there to embrace this if this is going to have any success. So, but that's again a discussion for another day. That being said, and seeing no more partner updates, let's go to administrative items. Ms. Nielsen, routine TPA reports.
Sure. If there's any questions, normally we don't have a presentation on these, but we have them in the backup. So
Any questions on anything in the materials? No one's running to their buzzers. No one's putting their cards up. Okay. I think it's time to talk about our next meeting, which will be on May 19th. Look forward to seeing you all back here smiling. And with that, we are adjourned.